Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Innovation Week 2024, an initiative by Startup India to celebrate the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. We are thrilled to have all of you join us today for this insightful and engaging session. I'm Harleen Pastricha, member of the Global and Corporate Partnerships team, and I have the privilege of welcoming each of you on behalf of DPIIT Startup India. Today's webinar promises to be a valuable experience featuring distinguished experts and thought leaders who will share their insights on innovation at the intersection of corporate business partnerships. I'm delighted to have such a diverse and accomplished audience with us today and appreciate your presence and participation. Before we dive into the discussions, I'd like to express our gratitude to our wonderful panel consisting of some of the big names in the private sector. Mr. Achyut Chandra from HCL, Mr. Pushkar Apte, Qualcomm, Mr. Bhanu Prasad from TCS Foundation, without whom this event could not have been possible. Their support reflects a shared commitment to promoting increased collaboration between government, corporates, and startups. Without further ado, let's embark on this learning journey together. I hope you find today's discussions enlightening and inspiring. This panel discussion today is a precursor to our thought leadership and handholding sessions spanning over the next week leading up to the Innovation Week culmination, wherein each of these partners have graciously offered to handhold a cohort of startups in their area of sector focus. Through the session, the audience is invited to ask questions to our experts, and we will collate these and ask them in the last segment of the session. Bringing the first guest in the spotlight first. Mr. Achyut Chandra is an experienced leader with 9+ years of experience, specializing in commercializing business and open innovation for HCL. He's committed to strategy development for sectors like health tech, fintech, e commerce, media, among many others, helping frame and prioritize the right problem statements for startups required for a disruptive innovation. Thank you so much for joining us today. My first question to you is that in an ever changing world where technology is changing at a fast pace, how do you suggest tech based startups can keep their technology not only relevant but also sustainable?
Thank you, Harleen. Thank you, Startup India, for inviting me, and thank you to my fellow panelists, Pushkar and Bhanu, and to everybody who's joined in. Gaurav, Shivangi. So I think the initiative we had started. It's a very noble initiative, and some of the startups that have registered also, I have seen the names. Happen to look at the product offering as well. So it's an interesting question that you've placed across, and the right time to ask, right? To really look at it. So I would say that by nature, startups are agile, and startups or scale ups, both of them are sort of agile. That's the nature based on which they're formed. Most of them, we've seen instances where problems have been solved in a particular way, but we've seen either incremental improvements, or we've seen a new way of doing those problems, and hence a new company has a new solution has really taken across or taken shape, right? But that being said, right, what has also happened is that the time to market has also reduced with the quick paced requirements that are there, and the technologies that have also been changing. So some of the things that what scale ups and startups could leverage is that at the very early start, right, build your products along with your customers. So build your product line, or your product roadmap along with the certain set of customers after you've seen the product market fit. So what happens is that as you engage your initial core and your allied set of customers, players, even your partners, channel partners including, if you work together in this journey, and then you improve your set of products, then what happens is that you're also learning through the way. And it's not just one technology or a set of technologies, but those technologies also keep changing and keep evolving is what I would say. And from that perspective, right, as the macroeconomic conditions have also over at least the last year or so have looked at more around conscious spending on the IT spends, IT budgets that were there, more and more of mapping towards alignment of the SDGs have come in place either by compliance or by choice or by design, right? So that certainly will drive the product roadmaps for most of the tech based deep tech startups, in my view.
Thank you so much. And we agree sustainability, relevance, knowing what the markets are right now are very important pillars for startups. It's one of our key focus area also here at Startup India, and that's what we want our startups to be mentored in, to be taking the right step towards disruptive innovation in the future. So, with this, I pass the baton on to Pushkar from Qualcomm. Pushkar has 17 plus years of global experience in wireless telecom and semiconductor industries in new business development. He has been responsible for driving Qualcomm's multi-million dollar chipset and direct licensing business in India, working closely with its ecosystem partners. Thank you so much for being with us today. My first question to you would be that we understand that Qualcomm has been working and supporting startups across regions closely. What has been your three key learnings, and how important do you think handholding and mentorship is for startups today?
Uh, Hi, Erling. So thank you so much for the question and also inviting me to the panel. Pleasure to be here. Um, as you said, Qualcomm has been active in the startup ecosystem since 2016, and I've been fortunate to be part of that. In fact, I started the first program, the Qualcomm Design in India Challenge, specifically focused on IoT hardware startups. And then the program has over the years evolved uh, you know, uh, to support much larger areas of technologies. And now we're looking at the most up and coming Gen AI based startups to bring into the program. Right. So we have learned quite a bit over the years working with these startups. Um, what I say is what we observed is not all startups are created equal, right? When you bring them into the program, um, and you start working with them, you realize that there are those few that are really awesome. There are some that are real good ones that can graduate to awesome at a certain point of time. And then there are those that, yes, you realize that they will probably be there, but they're probably their journey would be limited. So I think that's a fact that every company should accept as they partner with a group of startups and focus their energies. And that's what we realize is to focus their energies on those awesome ones and continue supporting the good ones, because that there is capability in those startups, and with a little bit of help and support over time, so don't give up on them, continue to support them, and they will probably graduate to the awesome level, right? So that's one thing I would say that I have taken out of those 7 years or 8 years of working with the startups. uh, the second is a perspective I bring in from as I mentioned, our programs are supporting a lot of the hardware startups. So this is a perspective I bring in from that angle, right? um, I would say for hardware startups, the journey is not easy, right? It's relatively that much more challenging relative to startups that are working in pure apps and services space, right? So for these startups, to bring to build that hardware is equally challenging. So corporates who are in this space should take it upon themselves to make it simpler and almost make it modular for the startups to pick up this hardware and actually focus their time and energy on porting their intellectual property on the hardware. So we at Qualcomm have worked towards this in multiple ways. The first cohort that we had in 2016, every startup that applied wanted to bring, also rather wanted to actually create their custom design board, right? And quickly we realized that the startups were really understaffed and did not have the right kind of expertise to do that. So over the next couple of years, me and my team, the engineering team that we have, we actually took an approach where as soon as they come in, we have onboarded them within 2 weeks with the hardware platform that we have, and made sure that they can actually start working with that hardware, and sort of integrate that into their overall product or system that they're building, right? So that's another learning that I bring in from the hardware perspective, is that make it easy. Don't let them waste too much time on building the hardware. Make it real simple and let them focus their efforts on porting their intellectual property on running on that hardware. So that's the second point. And the third is, this is from this is an perspective I bring from the startup side, right? For the hardware startups, be patient, right? We have seen a gestation period that is usually on average 2 to 3 years longer than the other category of startups I talked about, right? It will take a little more longer to get to the same place where you might have a friend or colleague doing a startup in the apps and services space. It'll take time to get that kind of funding. To get there, it'll take 2 3 more years, maybe longer, but don't give up. Keep at it. It is just the nature of the way it works with the hardware. Investors want to see more, and want to see you actually reach a certain point before they decide to commit with their funds. So just keep at it, and eventually you will get there. So those are the learnings I'd say I would want to present to the audience.
Thank you so much, and I'm very, very. I know that the startups would have been able to benefit a lot from these key learnings. What we really appreciate is when you mentioned in the first point that we are looking at startups at different level playing fields. We do understand that some might be at the top of the pinnacle at their idea, some might be starting out, and that is why it's very important to understand the diversity of each of the startups, the kind of experience they come with, the kind of support that they have from the ecosystem players. So that's something that we're also focusing on by bringing all these corporate partners together like yours, where each of you is focusing on a different sector expertise. Um, while we do talk about diversity, I have my next guest online, Mr. Bhanu from TCS Foundation. Um, so, Mr. Bhanu, in a career spanning over 2 decades, has been involved with technology innovations associated with payments, commerce, customer experience, and design thinking. As an innovation coach, now he coaches early stage social entrepreneurs towards sustainable and scalable impact. So, dropping off from where we picked up the last question, I want to speak about diversity to you. So, we do understand that while we do focus on a lot of tier 2 tier 3 cities, we are focusing on different social enterprises in startup India. We want to understand from you, running an organization or being part of the organization of the Digital Impact Square initiative by TCS, how is it that you're focusing on sustainable and social enterprises as well as the youth driven innovation of our country? Over to you, Mr. Bhanu.
Hi, Harleen, and first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to the panel. It's a pleasure listening to my co-panelists as well. And I think there is a big momentum today in India about creating a startup and building a venture for yourself. Now, what our role has been is we looked at the entire landscape of entrepreneurship, and we saw that in the first 18 to 24 months, over 80% of Indian startups fail. And this percentage is even higher for social entrepreneurs. And our focus was then, and probably typical of the Tata Group, is said, let's invest all our effort in making sure that we tighten this and strengthen this phase of the journey for the entrepreneurs. And so we created a program which is primarily focused on ensuring there is a deep appreciation for the challenges that India faces on in the social landscape. And just to ensure that we have a good appreciation, it was essential for us to create a very sound ecosystem, because every social challenge has to have a set of experts, a set of practitioners, a set of people on the ground who are able to give us this view of how life is for the beneficiaries, for the people who are eventually using our products and services. And in that process, across all domains in the development sector, we identified academic institutions, government organizations, NGOs, experts, influencers, thought leaders, and we got them all together. And we every year we curate challenges in consultation, both with the local state government as well as with the central government. And these challenges is what we actually publish and invite people to apply, either for young entrepreneurs or for people who are coming out of college, just kids who are coming out of college want to do something in entrepreneurship. And for them, we provide this 18-month runway, completely immersive, on the ground experience. And it's a very high touch program. We get about 1,000 applications through various channels each year. We only take 15 teams. So it's extremely competitive, very selective process. Big thanks to Startup India actually for being a key outreach partner and making sure that happens. And when we get these teams, we usually spread them across the domain areas of interest. And right from the time we publish the challenge itself, we have a key idea on who our partners are. And we look at partners in three areas. We look at domain partners, we look at sustained partners, and we look at anchor partners. So anchor partners are those who are willing to stay with this team till it reaches scale. Domain partners are those who provide support with respect to understanding the problem statement, understanding the domain, the sector itself. And then there are sustainability partners who will come and ensure that this team remains sustainable, the venture remains sustainable, whether it is in the form of first paid customer, first pilots, and so on, right? So, or grants. A big portion of sustainability today in India for social entrepreneurs is grants. So we create this combination and then we start. So right from day one, providing an 18-month runway to teams, providing a ecosystem access so that they can validate. Our primary focus is validation. We are extremely focused for the 6 months. We tell them, don't touch code, don't try to build a solution, just understand the problem well. And that is our core investment in sustainability. How do you ensure teams remain sustainable? Starts with ensuring that we remain relevant to the problem and relevant to the beneficiaries. And that comes from immersion, that comes from understanding the problems at the grassroots, and then getting into our engineering mode and getting into solutioning and sustain and scale it beyond that. So for our sustain approach has been immersion first, people first, problem first, and then the building the solutions. And then the rest of the partners, because the solutions are relevant eventually that come out of a process like this, we see a lot of interest, and almost all the incubators, accelerators, grant providers are all our partners later in this journey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhanu. It indeed has been very helpful to understand how important sustainability and youth innovation is in our country. One thing is clear from the first round of questions that we had from our key experts, that it is not only the start of any exploration journey which is important, but also the implementation that is the key to succeed. Having said that, coming back to our center stage of the corporate startup collaboration that is a part of this panel discussion, I would like to come back to Achyut sir again. My next question to you would be that what is the role of scale of a startup in a winning proposition for a corporate startup collaboration? How is it that you ensure a co-creation model is created with startups, and it's not just plug and play, but also a continued relationship between a corporate and a startup?
Sure, Harleen. And I think I'll pick up two keywords from my co-panelists: immersion and patience, especially patience on the hardware side and immersion on the impact side. That was really good. Coming to scale, so scale is very important. We are now moving towards profitability over other numbers, any other type of metrics. There is a reason behind it. If we have profitable propositions, if we are looking at solutions that have enough runway ahead of them, we can look at what is called as replicability of a technology solution to other industry verticals. And that's where key players like system integrators, key players like product partners, key players like channel partners, really enhances the collaboration. So once a startup is ready to sort of go to the next stage, which typically happens at a pre-series A or a series A level. Again, it's not generic, it depends on company to company, but generally if a company moves to a series A level, that is when scale is really needed, and another set of requirements essentially comes up, and it moves from an incubation to what is called as an acceleration stage. So provided that at this stage, early on, a company has engaged with a startup has engaged with its potential set of partners, we would be looking at high levels of commitment and trust between both the parties. So if a startup and a corporate is moving to that stage, we would be looking at the overall innovation reaching far beyond smaller proof of concepts into what are called as implementations in the real world. It could be scaled implementations that are being addressed at a multi-geography level, or it could be at least or it could be taking to other or plugging in other aspects as well, when it comes to, say, compliance, when it comes to adding more features to the product. So that will be important because uh, you know uh, the success of a partnership will actually be defined when both the partners and both the buyer and the seller are able to create value to the end customers by delivering it and also supporting it. So if there is a break in between, right, then that's when the partnership sort of just stays at a very superficial level and does not get embedded. I'll give an example, right? So uh, there are companies that there usually we've seen that there have been a lot of initial partnerships uh, uh, where startups start with license based agreements or license based subscriptions that are there. Now that is good when we are looking at testing out a use case, or starting out with a small pilot that's there. But eventually the partner or the corporate, if in this case that we are looking at, that true partnership will come in when the corporate partner is able to bring in much more than just market access. So we are looking at support from a technology perspective. It could be resources support, even from a funding perspective, support from a domain knowledge perspective, where that particular pilot could be implemented in various other segments. So different type of other commercial agreements also start we move into the scale stage or an acceleration stage. Some of the very good commercial agreements that startups sign are revenue sharing, are services agreements, are partnership agreements that are there. These are great, these are some of the good integration areas that are there, and then eventually the product is part of a larger catalog within the corporate. So that ensures that this entire journey is a success. And one of the key aspects in this entire journey is handling IP. So what I would suggest is get that off, or get that cleared at the start. Whether it, even if it is a small grant, even if it is a small prize money that's there, how do you handle IP between both partners? That if that arrangement is handled right at the very beginning, right, then it ensures that the two things, right, trust, commitment, and then resource sharing between both parties is a continuous process. So yeah, that would be a few cents.
Thank you so much. It indeed was very insightful, and I think we've covered a lot of ground on how corporate startup collaborations work. Further, I would have two sets of questions for my two panelists, Pushkar and Bhanu. They are on similar lines is why I'm clubbing them. But of course, we can start with Pushkar. Uh, But for Pushkar, I would like to focus on semiconductor and wireless technology first, and would ask what would be the advice for new age startups to expand and grow. And similarly, for Bhanu, I would like him to focus on the growth of not new age startups, but startups that are in tier 2, tier 3 cities, which are focusing on a little more rural, a little more not so new technologies, something that's very sustainable as well as rooted to the ground. So the essence of both the questions is the same, but one talking about new age startups and the second about tier 2, tier 3 cities. So starting with Mr. Pushkar, if you could take a lead on new age startups and wireless technologies, and then Mr. Bhanu, you can talk to us about the other part of the question.
Okay, thanks, Salim. So so Qualcomm is actually somewhere in between a wireless technology firm and a semiconductor firm, right? We are a fabless company, so we don't actually make our own SoCs. We contract with a manufacturer to do that. But yes, we do spend a lot of time and money in R&D for wireless building blocks, right? That we then license to our partners and the ecosystem players to build products with, right? So, uh, specifically talking about India, right? We have seen. I mean, Qualcomm is not new to India. We have had presence here since the late '90s, but we started engaging with the startup ecosystem since 2016. So even that, we've come a long way, about 7 or 8 years now on that. So now we are seeing the government coming up with so many schemes for um, the semiconductor space, right? There is the India Semiconductor Mission. So I think startups that are looking to get into this space, they have a wonderful opportunity to tap into. The government is putting a lot of funds into this sector. Take advantage of that. You have the guidance of many um, multinational players such as Qualcomm. You have Intel. There are other people who are committing new resources and investing more in the country, including AMD and the likes. So you have a lot of expertise at hand that you can leverage from many of these multinationals. Like I said, with the government putting in a lot of funds into this sector, it should not be a problem to get a runway of 1 to 2 years with the kind of effort that is being put in, right? Now, as far as wireless technologies, we pride ourselves in sort of leading that technology curve. So 5G is already available in many parts of India. I would say if you are looking at building products, do integrate the latest G solution into your products so that you can sustain them for a longer period of time without looking at obsolescence. So at least you should come up with something that has 4G, and then 5G would be even better. So look at the technology trend in the wireless domain as you create these products. Um, the new technologies, artificial intelligence, generative AI, all of that, use those tools to your advantage. Um, these things are almost becoming like a checkbox on the investors list. So unless you have a play with these technologies and you're able to create something using this and take that advantage, you'll be at a loss for securing funds and such. Now, when it comes to market access, do leverage the partnership with the corporate that you worked with to get market access. So, for instance, we can open doors for startups in the semiconductor space. We can even use some of the technologies to build our own products. So, look at various models. Don't always try to create the end product yourself. Invest in IP. Look at ways of monetizing that IP. If you'd like to consider that model, we have built a successful model ourselves in developing IP and monetizing it. So we actually put a lot of focus with our startup cohorts in looking at IP as a key enabler for their business strategy, right? So look at that. That is a key aspect to your growth as well. And you know, uh, for for um, for um, for the product space, you design locally. That will give you the benefit of all the schemes that the government is putting out there. But also look at the market globally, right? Design locally, but look at the global market for your products. We've had many startups going through our cohorts who have actually pivoted some of their products for the global markets, both from a product spec perspective as well as a price perspective, right? Because what you build for India may not be necessarily suitable for the rest of the world, especially the more developed markets where the consumer is a little more demanding, but also willing to pay a higher price. So you have to sort of create a different SKU for those markets. So be ready for that. But again, you don't have to switch away from local design, right? You build everything here, but sell globally. So that would be the way forward. Don't limit yourself to this market itself. And like I said, consider all aspects, including IP and product, as a way to generate revenue.
Thank you so much. That was indeed very interesting to know. Um, Now we can proceed to Bhanu, who can let us know about tier 2, tier 3 city innovations, any other key insights, any key takeaways for these startups.
So I think the future of India is there, right? So it's in tier 2 and tier 3. There is a huge momentum again from youth in India to contribute significantly in this area. And our focus has been over the last few years, last 8 years now. And we see the most committed, most invested entrepreneurs, persistent entrepreneurs who have great amounts of resilience coming from tier 2 and tier 3. So we are extremely upbeat. We are very enthusiastic when we talk to an entrepreneur who is coming, probably sometime the first time graduate in their family, but who have experienced hardships themselves in their family or their villages. And they come back and they seem to be extremely committed to solving the challenges. We have several examples like that within our cohorts. And that entrepreneur class that is a one that is very committed to addressing local challenges. But the mentoring that is supporting them at that time is usually to expand that horizon and say, not just solve a problem for your village, solve this problem for your 100 farmers, but then look at the global picture, what else is happening in the rest of the world. So I think in terms of innovation in tier 2 and tier 3, it is thriving. There is also a significant attention now to move away from just pure jugaad to sustainability and ensuring long-term utility for innovation and commercialization opportunity. I think that awareness is also picking up. So the role that we can play there, which we see, is decentralizing ourselves and becoming smaller hubs where we can provide this first port of call. The moment a young entrepreneur encounters a problem and creates a rough solution, we are there to listen to them and provide them some guidance. I think that's the biggest contribution that we can make. And there are a lot of tinkering labs and community innovation centers. The government of India has done significant efforts in that. But I think there is still a lot of opportunity for mentors and coaches to sort of diversify themselves and have a significant portion of their cohorts coming from tier 2 and tier 3. One of the challenges that we are seeing is a lot of emphasis seems to be on English as a language for pitching and English as a language for communicating how you're carrying out your work, or the quality of your innovation depends on how good you can speak English and so on. So those are the barriers that need to be broken now. I think even our application forms, when you are asking for people to apply, have to be in local language. Video application forms and saying, please explain your innovation in video, even if you can't put it up in English and so on. A lot of those steps are actually helpful. We are seeing a lot more people open up and share very openly that they're not comfortable in any other language but their local language. And I think that's what is needed. Now, a big portion of it is the structural efficiencies are also improving, right? So not just the government investing significantly in the startup infrastructure, but like Pushkar just mentioned about technology infrastructure, new chipsets, local reliance on building and designing locally. All of that, I think, is a great momentum that's coming up. The other thing is also there is a greater awareness in the local administration, that you don't need to go for an L1 by a quotation in a tender. There is probably a startup, there's probably a young person who has probably come up with a solution, and we can give them an opportunity. There are a lot of other small pockets of change that need to happen simultaneously, so that this enthusiasm doesn't turn into discouragement when they want to scale their innovation. And I am hoping that that rest of the ecosystem stays intact and continues to support, so that when the innovators eventually build their very promising prototypes and proof of concepts, there is also a market ecosystem that equally respects them and welcomes them to scale. And that runway, if we are able to provide, I think tier 2 and tier 3 innovations will eventually, just like we are doing an east to west innovation now that's happening, we will have a tier 2, tier 3 innovations coming into tier 1 very shortly.
Thank you so much. And in fact, all these insights, all these advices that our experts have given today, I, as a part of Startup India team, I am testimony to the fact that these corporate partners are truly working to bring together startups and create that corporate startup relationship. Each of the partners here today have had some kind of a corporate innovation challenge, some hand holding, mentorship, or any marquee program that has been set up with startups, and not just this year, but a lot of additions in the prior years as well. So we thank you all for joining us today. Now, with this, we move to the final segment of our workshop, for which our participating startups are super excited, the Ask Me Anything, where we have invited startups to ask questions to our key experts. So I will be reading out a couple of questions that have come in from our audience. They're generic questions, not pointed at any of the experts. So I would request each one of you to give your key insights to the questions. The first one is about a startup that's wondering when it is ready to assess that it can partner with a corporate, and what should it keep in mind when it's approaching a corporate for a partnership. So starting with Pushkar, and then we can hear from all of you. What is the stage when a startup really knows that, okay, now I can partner with a corporate?
Uh, okay, so it may be difficult to answer that part, like what is the right time. What I can say is there is never a good or a bad time for a startup to partner with the corporate. The key things that from a startup perspective that the founders need to look at is, okay, what is it that they're looking out of the partnership, right? Um, some startups may be looking for a corporate partner to give them market access, right? Others may be looking at the corporate as a technology partner, right? In the startups that come to our cohort, they are primarily looking for the technology that Qualcomm has to offer, right? They don't come to us for market access. There are other accelerators that are very sector or vertical specific, that are run by other corporates that are offering these market and pilot opportunities to the startups. So the objective of the partnership should be very clear to the startup, and also applies to the corporate, right? What is it that the startup would add to the partnership that the corporate is looking for, right? So like I said, no good or bad time. I think the alignment needs to be clear, and the objective, what is being derived out of it for both sides. Otherwise, it may be a setup for failure down the line.
Noted on that, and I hope the question has been answered well for the startup. I can redirect the next question to Bhanu regarding what could be the factors that could derail a corporate startup collaboration. What could be the roadblocks? What is it that both corporates and startups should avoid when it comes to their relationship or their partnership together?
I think Pushkar just touch upon some of them. I think there is a couple of aspects when you're looking at technology startups, for example, purely focused on, say, uh, building some new communication tech, and you go into Qualcomm. You want to make sure that there is the kind of overlap that you are talking about is equally protected on both sides. All right, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're building something that competes with the corporate partner's core business. You want to make sure that there is this separation of technology, separation of roles, separation of markets, especially if you're building something in a similar area. If once you cross that hurdle, the other is alignment with respect to when you partner with a corporate. Yes, the biggest reason is, what is it that you want from the corporate? Is it market access? Is it mentoring from a technology standpoint? If you are looking for those, and if your focus in terms of application area is different, but your core technology is still the same, there is a lot of leverage that you can actually learn from. But if you don't have alignment either on the technology or on the application area, you probably will not have as much overlap. There may not be as much investment on either side to continue that relationship. I think that's one of the biggest aspects to look at. What could happen is, you could also eventually think of, say, a go-to-market strategy and say, by the way, we are building a product that strengthens your product that's already there in the market. Now, we could actually become your lead, and then you could actually deploy your rest of the services, whatever. In those cases, it's very important to make sure that the terms and references, the coverage of service conditions, the whole product service operations kind of roadmap is very clearly laid out. And you do a true go-to-market and make sure that you cover this entire thing, both from a legal and operations perspective, and make sure that you provide the best possible experience. So, of course, I'm talking of all of this in a very advanced stage startups who have products that can actually work in conjunction with a corporate, which is not very easy, right? You're not going to build a product that's going to dazzle Qualcomm very easily, right? It's going to take some time. It's going to take some ingenuity and real cool tech. And that's where all of these challenges are going to come.
Great.
Yeah, if I can add
Thank you.
something to
Yes,
that.
please do.
Yeah, so on
Please
Bhanu's
do.
point, right, where there is an overlap. Yeah, this is what we call as conflict of interest, right? And especially the other program that we manage here, the semiconductor mentorship program. When we talk to the startup that are, especially because we are from that same space, we need to absolutely make sure that they are not building something that we may be also working internally on, right? Because that creates a classic conflict of interest, and that can lead to a lot of IP contamination. So in those cases, it's better to sort of walk away from each other rather than sort of have a very, very, a relationship which is based on mistrust and whatnot, right? So yeah, so very valid point, Bhanu, that you raised.
Thank you so much. My next question would be to Achyut. This has come from one of our startups asking how the startup should make a choice between the funding sources available in the market. When is it that they feel that they can maybe enter into a partnership with corporates for funding, or whether they should wait and then take up funding from the market instead? Would you be able to guide on that?
Sure. I would have a slightly different view on that. If you need funding, you go to investors. Corporates will not be the right, or any type of enterprise would not be the right partner if it's just funding. There is a reason behind it, because any type of enterprise, brings a lot of other things, other areas also along with. So funding becomes one part of it, but it's not just funding. So we just spoke about various examples, right? Whether it's platform, whether it's technology, whether it's mentors, whether it's business access, whether it is even time from both sides. As an entrepreneur, time for you is of the most important aspect, because you cannot end up joining 10 or 15 programs. You have to focus, and that's because you have a small team. So if you're getting say a shared CMO or a shared CTO from a team or a partner that's there, that's when those type of areas is when you reach out to a corporate for funding. And if that corporate also happens to be a strategic investor, or has avenues to become a strategic investor further down the line, provided you've managed to fulfill all the aspects, like there's no conflict, you're adding to the value, you're potentially creating new businesses, there's a good funnel together, right? That enterprise will end up investing, because that enterprise would want that once a startup either this is specifically for, say, a growth stage startup. If you're trying to exit, the enterprise would also want to be part of that raising round, because that enterprise sees value and you'll get the money. But if you're just looking for funds, VCs and grants would be the better source for those.
Agreed. Thank you so much. Um, One last round of questions for everyone, and that's just a generic question from our side. What would be the mantra that you would want to leave our audience here with today? I mean, anything about a corporate startup relationship, any key mantra? It could be just as simple as one line that a startup should take as a key insight from you all while they navigate through their innovation journey. So, starting with you, Pushkar.
I don't know if I can put it in one line, but uh, you know, when you look at a partnership with a corporate, be absolutely clear about why you want to get into it, what the corporate has to offer to you, and resource and staff on your side appropriately to meet that goal, right? I mean, a lot of these partnerships fall apart because there is no right staffing on the side of the startup, right? They get into it, but they really can't execute. So make sure that when you get into the partnership, you are resourced to execute on that.
Thank you. Bhanu?
I'll probably sound like a broken record, but validate early, get thinking in terms of ecosystem and systems as early as possible. Don't be driven by solution, be driven by problem and impact.
Thank you. Achyut?
Yeah, there's no one word, but right first use case. I keep saying that often. Identify the correct use case very early on, to end up, follow ups and other areas which sort of, and eating up time or at the entrepreneur level as well. So find the right use case in one or two calls, or even the third call. Try to get that first, and everything else later.
Thank you so much. And we really, really want to we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you for taking out time to be part of this session. I talk on behalf of all the ecosystem players in our audience today, and we truly, truly appreciate all the key takeaways. We're going to try and implement them to be able to foster successful partnerships amongst each other. We're very excited for the second half of this initiative, and we're very sure that that one-to-one leadership guidance that has been planned for startups will truly be helpful. So, just at the risk of repeating myself, I would like to tell everyone who has joined in late that the coming days leading up to the week of the Innovation Week culmination, we have one-to-one mentorship sessions for 3 to 4 startups, a cohort of startups that is going to be mapped to each of the experts present here, and they will be helping them learn, network, and connect to the correct stakeholders in the ecosystem. So, with this, we flag off the second part of our program and look forward to an enriching experience. Best of luck, everyone, and happy innovating. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you to all of you for being here today.